Count Basie. Oh my gosh. And I have some friends of mine that played with Count Basie. Nolan Shahid, a trumpet player, John Clayton, bass player, several others. But some of the big band leaders I had a chance to meet. Now, of course, they're all gone, but Woody Herman. One time I had a chance to prepare some music for him. I wasn't composing, but I was doing some music copying for him a very long time ago. And so I met some of the different big band leaders. September of 1980, two things with the big band. Um, April 9th, 1980, the maiden voyage was on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. That was exciting. And then in
That's your all-female band Maiden Voyage.
that was all female at the time. Mm-hmm. And then also I had an all female band, and it did feature like one or two men brass players. Bob Sinescu on trumpet, and I can't think of the trombonist's name right now. Excellent players. And we played in September of, I believe it was September 11th and 12th. See, I can remember numbers, not names. We played a big band weekend at Knott's Berry Farm, and there was Woody Herman, Harry James, Maynard Ferguson, my band, and they kept saying a guest band, and then it turned out to be Count Basie's band. So we played opposite them in the park just that weekend, but wow.
That must have been
Um,
exciting.
mhm.
What are the various ways a composer or musician can make money for themselves? What are the different avenues?
Well, there are, of course, now it keeps changing in a way. I mean, now a lot of the work, of course, is at our own computers. I tend, by the way, when I am doing scores, I mean, people will do synthesized scores um, to make it sound like a full orchestra. Most of the time, when I do a film score or any score, musical theater or whatever, I use live players. I usually will use maybe 7 or 8 players, but I would rather use live players than a synthesized score because the musicians themselves bring so much to the project that it's yeah the human the live musicians really adds a lot. But I mean, some composers start doing orchestration arranging, or some people start doing copying, transcriptions, um, maybe arrangements for singers. Some composers might get into commercials. Now, I haven't done it, but I know friends of mine that have actually been paid really well to make trailers for film trailers. And I know that there's especially nowadays, there's kind of a pattern overall for the music for trailers. But some people have said that that's quite a business for them.
I know you mentioned copywriting,
Copywriting of the,
like that's another avenue of to earn income for a musician.
yes, uh-huh, sure,
And
royalties and all. Yeah.
what's the future as far as composers and musicians, like, well, I guess mainly composers for video games. Video games seem to be very popular now.
Yes, that's an area I haven't done really gotten into, but yes, that the thing about it's very interesting because the video games, and I have composer friends of mine who are doing video games, and they are um, video games are now tending to use live large orchestras, not only certainly recording the game scores, but it's become popular to have concerts of the games on screen, and a live orchestra actually playing the scores, or even with film scores. I know that I'm also on the wage scale committee at Local 47, and we had to come up with a new scale. It affects composers as well because musicians had to then get recording equipment and record their own part. It actually took a lot more work for them to record and edit and get their part.
Recording seems to be a whole other art and skill too.
Yeah, it is. For me, I learned how to read music first, and when I write my scores, a lot of people just play into like Logic or Digital Performer. I enter right into Finale notation software. I think notationally. And yeah, I could play something in and then transcribe it later, but almost always when I get done with composing, it's right there in notation. So a lot of people don't work that way, but I do. And in fact, one of the composer groups I'm in, Some of All Music, and we're doing a lot of collaborating now, and this really grew during the pandemic, and now releasing albums and all. And most of these people, I can just, put something together real quick. Some use one or two Performer, but yeah, they're mostly Logic users, and the things sound just great. And then me, I'm wanting to notate it all, but uh, it's I do feel very strongly that yes, mixing and all is very much an art in itself. I mean, I really admire audio engineers or film editor friends of mine that just a lot of decisions to make and all, and so many choices. I mean, when I see the notation, I know exactly what it's going to sound like. When you start mixing, there's reverb and just so many choices. I mean, you can kind of never finish in a way. Deadlines are good because I can come up with a lot of different ideas. Okay, which do I use? Then deadlines help for that.
Hmm. Do most professional composers belong to the musicians union?
Well, many do, not all. Composing is considered a separate. Composing composing itself is considered a creative endeavor, but it doesn't come under one of the. But composers, it's to their advantage to be in the union because then they can collect. They can be on the contract, not as a composer, but as a conductor, a score consultant, a orchestrator, in many ways, and then they build their pension and the health plan and things like that, and then the protection of the union. And a lot of people think that it's very difficult to have work with the different scales and all, and the contracts rather, filling out the contracts and all, but it's not really. It may seem daunting. We're talking. We want to really make that accessible so that people don't think, oh my gosh, it's so hard to get involved with all and getting under union contract.
Does the union help composers get work at all, or even musicians get work?
There is a referral service, things like that, but that's not the main. Um, I mean, there can be help. I mean, also, of course, meeting other musicians and all, and composers, and getting out and meeting people is the best way.
So it's
Uh,
more like the actors union that they don't really help get people work, but they are instrumental in making sure at least there's a
mhm.
livable bottom